Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome
and Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
We made it to 2024.
We sure did.
New year, new you.
New year, new you. Welcome to 2024. Here we go. Last year, well, really 2022 and 2023, you guys showed us you all love learning about sugar.
Sugar! Those are our number one listen to.
Sugar. Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. It is so funny. It is like top 10 episodes and the top 3 are all about sugar.
Okay, our people are renegades. Like, our people are like, we're going to buck the number one ingredient in America and maybe the world, I don't know. But in America, in foods, is literally sugar. Added sugar.
Added sugar.
But our people,
yeah, they're like,
we buck
that's
the
right.
system.
I think the fact that people are even listening to those episodes shows that they're open to the change. That's a good thing.
I love this.
Yeah. So, you know, why not kick off the new year with an episode about sugar, since that's what you all like to hear about, apparently. Doesn't matter what other interesting information we post, you guys are constantly listening to those episodes about sugar. I think it said when we were reviewing our stats, I think it said 22% of our new followers all come in from our top episode about sugar, which is the Sugar Cereal Part 3, How to Quit Sugar for Good.
Okay, the action step of how to quit.
In 2023, 22% of our new followers found us because of that episode.
Okay, they're hungry for it.
Yeah.
They are tired of the sugar buzz. They're tired of inflammation. They want better.
That's right. So we're going to make this episode, this New Year, New You episode, all about sugar with a side of motivation to encourage you to leave your sugar addiction behind in 2023.
I love it.
Kay, tell us about how much better your life has gotten since you quit sugar.
Oh my gosh, I feel great. Like, I kind of forget that I'm like 39. I still feel like a young little pup. I don't get so like mentally foggy, saddy. Like, when I have sugar here, okay. I now have like a pretty clean plate of food. Like, I don't do the sugar, but when I sneak it in, you know, like on a party or a holiday or something, I'm a little in the dumps the next day. And then I came to realize I used to kind of be more in the dumps more often because I had sugar more often. Eleni, I just feel like the clouds have lifted. I feel no brain fog. I feel good energy in my body. My zits are less. I should get to the camera. I always, you know, let you guys know about my health depending on my zits on my chin. My zits are clearing up. I just feel just like this general kind of inflammation in my body has gone down. I feel great. And I don't crave it anymore because it's not a part of my life, and how maybe you'll talk about later about the other things that I do. I still do like Lily's chocolate. I still do a little bit of honey here and there. And like, those are so adequate. And I feel good.
You just covered, I love this. Kay and I did not consult before this episode.
To cover all the things.
Kay just covered like 8 of my 10 points.
Oh, no.
And it's so perfect. No,
it
it's
worked
great.
out?
You're
Okay,
previewing
okay.
them. No, it's great. I'm going to go into details. You know me. I'm going to go into all the details. I'm going to give you all the science. But literally, you could not have answered that question better. And I did not prompt her.
Yes.
But that was the best response I could have asked for, because we're going to go into the 10 ways that quitting sugar will make your life better in 2024. And Kay just listed like 7 of them.
Okay, I'm going to think the ones that I missed, when you say them, I'm going to be like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have that too.
No,
Okay.
you basically just covered them all. It's amazing.
I love
I did not cue her up for that at all.
Yeah.
And it's just proof. It's just proof that it's true, that I'm not just blowing smoke.
Yep, empirical data, folks.
So, the number one way that you will feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is better energy.
Yes! So true.
Better energy.
You don't have that high-low dip. Okay, I'm going to let you do this. I've been a good student, so now I feel like I got a grip on this.
Yes, absolutely. So the simple sugars, like those that we find in processed carbohydrates, white sugar, added sugar, all of those things, provide us with a quick burst of energy. But the sugar burns up fast, which means that the energy that it gives us is short-lived. It is transient, and we need more a short time later. So then we crash sooner, we need more energy. It's not sustained energy. So when sugar is our main fuel source, we become kind of metabolically inflexible. And what I mean by that is that our body has become accustomed to relying on sugar for its fuel source. So it will always burn glucose first, even when fat is present. And the bad thing about that means that then when we have fat, we store it, we don't burn it because our body is metabolically inflexible. It wants to burn the glucose first. But if we are metabolically flexible, if we consume protein and fat as our fuel sources, then our body will start to burn those first, be more efficient at burning those instead of storing them in our fat cells. So our body, when we are metabolically inflexible, will always prefer sugar and carbohydrates as its fuel instead of those longer lasting fuel sources. But when the body is receiving more stable and sustained energy, like when we shift to consuming fat for energy or protein for energy, then it can adapt and becomes metabolically flexible, and it can run on whatever fuel is most available. That's one of the goals of the ketogenic diet, is increasing that metabolic flexibility by encouraging your body to produce ketones and burn those for fuel. Anyway, that's a whole separate episode. But the main thing is that we want to become better fat burners. So we want to stop giving our body that easy fuel, because our body will always take the easiest way out, right? Because that's just human nature. It's the easy way out, right? So after an initial withdrawal period, so if you quit sugar in 2024, you will probably have an initial withdrawal period. You'll probably feel more tired. Might last even a couple of weeks. You might feel kind of flu-like. There's literal addiction withdrawal symptoms that you can have. But once you get past that point, and I promise you will get past that point, drink lots of water, eat lots of protein, get lots of fat,
push through,
go outside, get sunlight. Anyway, when you get through that, then you will find that you no longer have those afternoon slumps, and you no longer need to take naps to get through your day, right? You're going to have better sustained energy when you eat a good protein-rich, fat-rich breakfast. You are going to have the best energy. You will not need caffeine. You will not need sugar to get through your day. You will never say again, I just need that Pepsi to get through my afternoon, or I can't if I don't have a Red Bull, or I can't if I don't have my Mountain Dew, or I can't if I don't have a candy bar. Yeah. That will no longer be your life.
You know what? And that reminds me, I actually came to you because I needed to feel better in my body. And before I kind of knew you, as we know each other now, as besties. But when I didn't know you yet, I came to you as a nutritionist, and I really was like, I just get tired 2 or 3 o'clock. And then you were like, okay, here's this sugar solution book. What's the Mark Hyman?
Oh yeah, blood sugar solution.
Yeah, blood sugar solution book. And I was like, yeah, okay, thank you. But I was like, I'm not here.
Thanks, but no thanks.
I'm not here for what you want to cut out of my diet. I want you to add things to my diet. Yes. And then you kept being like, okay, but watch your sugar. And I was like, no, thank you, Eleni. Love you, as but no.
I remember you literally saying, I'm just probably not ever going to quit sugar.
Did I say that?
You were like, I just always need a little something. I need that cookie dough that's in my freezer, but I'm just going to have less. Oh, and gosh. I was like, okay.
You're right. And I literally, oh my word, always, and you can ask anyone, friends or family, I always had cookie dough or brownie batter in my freezer from a box. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
And now, I haven't done that in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. And the first few times we met, you were like, no, I don't want to give that up. And then finally you were like, all right, I'll try it. And I was like, it's just 21 days, right?
Yeah.
The Blood Sugar Solutions book by Mark Hyman is a great one. I was like, just 21 days. Just go without 21 days. And look at you. You've never looked back since.
What a memory trip. Wow, you're so right. So anyone who's really addicted to sugar like I was, you can do it. But I will say for me, I probably did the 21 days at 90%, but it took me a while. I more weaned myself off over a year.
Oh yeah, it's been 3 years since you started that journey.
Yeah, and I would say, and it's been 3 years since now I'm very good at it. Now I'm very instinctual, and now if I eat sugar, I feel really bad pretty soon. So for anyone who was truly a sugar addict, if I could use that word, I would have been there, totally there. So there is hope for y'all too.
Kay flat out said no.
Yeah.
To be being
my nutritionist.
To be you should just cut the sugar out and you'll feel better.
Can I eat the sugar and just add a stalk of broccoli? Can I just do that? I have to take something away?
I'm so tired in the afternoons. I'm so tired. I'm well, if you cut out sugar, you will stop crashing your blood sugar and you will have more energy in the afternoon. Okay, that's cool. But what else can I do?
But that doesn't make sense because the sugar gives me the energy. So I'm going to new answer.
Yes. So there you go. That's number one.
That makes
Improved
sense.
energy, no more afternoon slumps in 2024.
Yes.
If you quit sugar, I swear.
Yep, long game. You're in it for the long game.
And I swear. Okay.
And I swear
By the moon and the stars in the sky. Okay.
just quit sugar.
Yes, I swear. Number two. Number two is improved blood sugar stability
Oh.
and improved insulin sensitivity. So it goes hand in hand with number one.
Okay.
But when we have stable blood sugar, we have stable energy, we have improved insulin sensitivity. So if you quit sugar, it will help reverse insulin resistance. Under normal circumstances, insulin kind of functions this way. So like we consume glucose from our food enters our bloodstream. That signals our pancreas to release insulin. Insulin helps shuttle the glucose that's in our blood into our muscle, fat, or liver cells. And then we can pull from that glucose, that stored glucose called glycogen. We can use that later for fuel. When glucose enters our cells and then the levels of glucose in our bloodstream decrease, that tells our pancreas to stop producing insulin. So that's the natural order of things. So you consume glucose, your insulin production goes up to remove it from your bloodstream, puts it into your cells, levels drop, insulin stops. When we are eating sugar repeatedly throughout the day, we are constantly switching on the insulin production. So we have coffee with sugar in the morning, and then we have toast for breakfast. We have a sandwich and a cookie at lunch. We have a pasta with bread and ice cream for dinner. We are consistently, because remember, sugar is not just white sugar, it's also refined carbohydrates like those in white flour and baked goods and things like that. So we are constantly turning on our insulin production, on. And as you can imagine, at some point you kind of start to burn that process out. And not only that, but our cells in our body begin to become resistant to insulin. And more insulin has to be produced in order to provide the same results. So like I was trying to think of how to give you like an analogy of that, and the thing that came to my mind was how parents of kids, have you ever noticed how like they're like increasingly oblivious to their kids making noise? Like
Absolutely.
have you ever like been like me, an older person and not a parent yet? I remember before I became a parent having conversations with parents, and their kids would be like, mom, 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 or they'd be like screaming in the background, like running into things, and it was like their parents didn't even notice the noise anymore.
Absolutely.
It was just like background to them.
And you're
I'm like, do you guys like, I am like crawling out of my skin right now. I am so overstimulated by all the sounds your children make. Now that I have a child, I totally get it. But at the time I was like, I don't get how you guys are so desensitized to all these noises.
Yes.
That's how it works with our body and insulin. You just produce it all the time.
Self-protection.
Yes. Your body just becomes resistant to it. It becomes desensitized to it. And then just like a parent who is now they need the loudest of crashes or the right kind of yells to care. That's how our body is, right? That's my analogy.
That is a very good analogy, and I feel like so many of us relate hard with that.
Relate. So yes, we burn out our pancreatic beta cells, which produce insulin. And then eventually, if that production becomes altered enough, we develop insulin resistance, we can develop metabolic syndrome, we can get type 2 diabetes, we can get Alzheimer's, all of those terrible chronic diseases, all because we become resistant to insulin. So quitting sugar 2024 will reverse insulin resistance. A recent analysis of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, that's the NHANES data, from 2021 found that 40% of U.S. adults aged 18 to 44 are insulin resistant.
Ooh-wee.
40% of U.S. adults 18 to 44 are insulin resistant. And insulin resistance leads to every chronic disease you can imagine, and 40% of us.
Wow, and you know that's going up, and you know that
it's only going up. Absolutely. It can lead to cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, autoimmune conditions. Like, there's a reason all of those conditions are increasing. That's another benefit. We'll talk about that later.
I mean, we could Google this, but I wonder what it would have been before the Industrial Revolution, like back in like 1903. I wonder what it would have been.
And I don't know that they would have even been familiar with insulin resistance as a term.
To even be able to test it. You're right. But I mean, we can assume that most people were all right since they wouldn't have had access.
I mean,
to
we don't
those
have
quick
many
cards.
records of diabetes as it exists today, right? So that tells us people were not insulin resistant in the way that they are now.
Right.
We didn't all have autoimmune conditions. We didn't all have diabetes. And yes, we are better at testing for those things. And yes, that is part of it, but it's not all of it.
Yeah. But we would have had testing like 20, 30 years ago.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. I'll Google this. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Anyway.
A study conducted by the University of Southern California showed that reducing added sugar intake by 40 grams per day can lead to a 20% decrease in insulin secretion. This is a good thing. We want to lower how much insulin our body is producing because when it overproduces, we become desensitized. So reducing sugar intake by 40 grams a day can lead to a 20% decrease in insulin secretion. Another study based on the NHANES data in the United States revealed that in the 1999 to 2004 cohort, each additional sugar-sweetened beverage serving consumed per day was associated with a 6% increase in insulin resistance, a 0.16 millimeter increase in systolic blood pressure, a 0.47 centimeter increase in waist circumference, a 0.93 percentile increase in BMI, and a 0.48 milligram per deciliter decrease in HDL cholesterol, which is the good cholesterol that protects us against heart disease. So each additional sugary beverage consumed per day led to each of those. So if you were having like 4.
So I was saying, wait, each. I'm like, how many we having? Yes, guys.
Right. So each 8 ounce or 1 cup sugar sweetened beverage per day contributed to those stats. What's shocking.
Wow, that is shocking.
What's shocking in this study is that they also found that young adults were consuming an average of 7 servings of sugar sweetened beverages per day.
No.
And each one contributed to those things.
Literally do better, Americans and young people. Like, literally do better.
Yes.
Oh, they crash in at 2:00. They all taking naps now.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. I kind of figured, I was like, who drinks much pop anymore? Or soda?
Everyone, I think. I just think like we live in this
like healthy bubble. You and me in the podcast that we follow.
Right.
And that we,
like, yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're going to do one thing in 2024, just stop drinking soda.
Water. There is tea in the morning. For you coffee drinkers, there's coffee. I mean, golly. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. 2024. Just quit soda, friends.
2024. Okay. Number 3, the third way that you are going to feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is reduced inflammation and pain.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
Yes, I noticed that and my bike instructor at the Y, I was like, man, I couldn't come in to the bike ride this week. Man, my knee was just inflamed. And she goes, oh yeah, that always happens with me and sugar. And then I thought about it. I was like, holy cow, I had that pie the night before because it was a holiday. And then I couldn't come in. And she was like, yep, always link it to sugar. Watch it. I was like, you are right.
100%.
Yeah.
Excessive sugar consumption triggers the release of pro-inflammatory substances in our body that contributes to body-wide systemic inflammation and joint pain. A study of nearly 10,000 adults in England showed that individuals who consumed more added sugar from beverages and tea, coffee, and cereal had higher levels of inflammatory markers in their blood. High levels of sugar in our diet can lead to the development of inflammatory conditions, so autoimmune conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, inflammatory bowel disease, Hashimoto's, etc., etc. Those come from increased inflammation in the body. Sugar increases inflammation in the body. Ergo, sugar consumption can lead to the development of those chronic autoimmune conditions. One of the first things people notice when they quit sugar is that their joint pain, their back pain, their headaches, their neck pain, those things decrease. It's one of the most marked improvements that happens early on with quitting sugar.
And it's worth it.
Who doesn't want that?
Right.
Hey there, Renegades. Eleni here, briefly interrupting this episode of the Renegade Nutrition podcast. I wanted to highlight a company that Kay and I have recently discovered that we love, and that company is Bulletproof. Bulletproof sells high-quality nutritional supplements, and every product that Kay and I have tried from them personally, we have found to be excellent. It's important when you choose a supplement that it contain the bioactive forms in order for it to be effective, and Bulletproof has just the right forms in just the right amounts. Right now, if you go to bulletproof.com and use the code RENEGADE15 at checkout, you can receive 15% off your order. That's Renegade, RENEGADE 15. Use that code at checkout to get 15% off, and we'll earn a small commission too. Thanks for your support. All right, back to this week's episode of the Renegade Nutrition Podcast. Okay, Kay covered this next one. Okay. Number 4, the fourth way you're going to feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is reduced brain fog.
Yeah.
Improved mental clarity and memory.
Help my brain, Eleni.
If you're listening to this podcast on your way to work, did you forget your keys on the way out the day or out the door? Like, do you struggle to remember your to-do list? Do you get to work and you're like, oh my gosh, I know I had 5 things to do. I can only remember 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Do you have trouble focusing at work? Do you forget to turn off the lights, turn off the stove? Do you forget people's names? Okay, that might be brain fog due to sugar consumption, right? Sugar in the form of glucose is the primary fuel source for our brain. Our brain needs glucose, right? We can get glucose from things besides white sugar. So that's not a feed your brain glucose and eat sugar, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So even though the brain needs glucose, too much of that energy source can be a bad thing. Research has linked high sugar consumption to inflammation in the brain, which can lead to memory struggles and suppression of something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is needed for neuroplasticity, memory formation, and learning. So neuroplasticity is how we learn new ways to do things, right?
Okay.
So plasticity is how we learn a new language, how we learn a new route to work. Those are all the ways in which we can change our brain. It's important to maintain neuroplasticity if you want to avoid things like Alzheimer's and dementia.
Mm-hmm. What's neurotrophic? Did you say that word? What's that one?
Basically, neurotrophic factors it's kind of just a fancy way of saying things that influence the neurons in our brain.
Okay, got it. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, is suppressed by sugar consumption, and we need BDNF for neuroplasticity, memory formation, and learning. A 2009 study using an animal model at the University of Montreal and Boston College linked excess glucose consumption to memory and cognitive deficiencies. High glucose levels negatively affect the brain's functional connectivity, which links brain regions that share functional properties and brain matter. It actually can cause the brain to atrophy and shrink.
Really?
Sugar consumption shrinks your brain. It can also lead to small vessel disease, which restricts blood flow to the brain, not a good thing, which causes cognitive difficulties. And if it's severe enough, then spurs the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. In a pilot study, researcher Vera Novak and her colleagues found that a single dose of administered insulin had a positive effect on memory, verbal learning, and spatial orientation, which means that when we inhibit our insulin production with sugar, when we basically overproduce insulin and then become desensitized to it, that means that negatively affects memory, verbal learning, and spatial orientation. And one study showed that a diet high in sugar slows the production of BDNF, and then we can't produce new memories and learning. Okay.
I like spaced out for half a second. I was like, oh no, did I have sugar for breakfast? Real life example, friends.
Yeah.
But I did have honey. Would that count?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
It kind of depends on how you had the honey and what other things you had with the honey. Honey is fructose and glucose. So it is like, it has the benefits of like added minerals, added vitamins. It does not spike our blood sugar in the same way that white sugar does.
Okay.
Actually, some studies have recently shown that honey consumption decreases the onset of diabetes. So that's an interesting. So I don't believe that honey influences insulin production in the same way that white sugar does, but it would still influence it to some.
Okay.
To some amount, yes.
Okay, and have it with a fat and a protein.
Yeah, okay. But it may not be exactly what you're spacing out. You might have just been bored with what I was saying.
All those science words, I'm like, ruh-roh.
This kid's like, I'm going to start thinking about what I'm doing today.
Yep.
Basically, the fact that you can administer insulin and improve memory, verbal learning, and spatial orientation shows that if we're burning out our body's production of insulin, we're going to have issues with all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. And on the topic of brain health, eliminating sugar also leads to, as Kay said, enhanced mental well-being, improvement in our mood, and improved willpower.
It really does for me, and I feel like I haven't been able to like link that enough to tell people. Like I think people would think I was crazy if I was like, without sugar, I feel sane, and with sugar, I feel insane. I feel like that's not a statement I could say, but like I really do think it. Okay, I'm glad you're backing me up on this. I was kind of shy about saying that, but I really do think it.
No, the fifth way that you can feel better in 2024 by quitting sugar is enhanced mental well-being, mood, and improved willpower. You probably, like everybody in America, associate high sugar items with happy celebratory times like birthday cakes at a party, your grandma's homemade cookies. We talked about this in that episode, Your Brain on Sugar, how sugar creates addiction and how you can overcome it, right? However, research does also consistently link sugar with depression and anxiety. So indeed, the roller coaster of high blood sugar followed by a crash accentuates the symptoms of mood disorders, depression, anxiety. So for starters, again, we've talked about this. Sugar suppresses what? BDNF, which is already low in individuals who suffer from depression. So if you have depression, you already are low in that brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and sugar decreases it further.
Wow.
Right. Sugar also can cause blurry vision, difficulty thinking, and fatigue, all of which might be interpreted as signs of a panic attack, increasing our worry and fear. And like a sugar high and then the subsequent withdrawal that happens can cause shaking and tension, which can make anxiety worse.
Yeah.
Additionally, brain imaging studies have shown that high blood sugar hurts our abilities to process emotions.
Oh, really? Fascinating. The like mental, emotional, physical like connection, that is just bananas to
All
me.
of it. And furthermore, sugar depletes our B vitamins, and B vitamins are crucial for the human brain.
Who knew?
Right? A deficiency in vitamin B can lead to reduced cognitive clarity and a decline in thinking abilities, but it can also cause irritability, mood swings, depression, anxiety.
It's not you. It's your lack of B12 and your sugar, friends.
Yes. So eliminating sugar and reducing inflammation tends to make individuals feel more relaxed and more hopeful. And we often notice this difference when we start to like actually pay attention to how we're feeling.
Yes.
So if you have a day where you're feeling down, like Kay has alluded to, maybe stop and reflect. Like, did I have sugar for breakfast? Did I have sugar last night? Why am I feeling depressed? Even just coming to terms with, I'm feeling depressed right now. What's causing that can very quickly reverse that situation.
True.
A study published in the Frontiers in Public Health in 2023 2023, involving 16,000 obese American adults, revealed that individuals with higher total sugar intake in their diets had a higher prevalence of depressive symptoms. Those with the highest total sugar intake had a 50% higher risk of developing depression than those with the lowest.
Wow. I love that there's scientific data bringing this out. I feel like I have felt this for years, but just didn't have the evidence behind it. I love these numbers.
Additionally, we talked all about the addiction powers of sugar in that Your Brain on Sugar episode, so be sure to check that one out. I'm not going to go into detail here, but we do know that sweet foods can be more addictive than cocaine, and high glycemic foods light up the reward centers in our brain, and they trigger more intense hunger cues than low glycemic foods, which can drive overeating and loss of self-control. And willpower being a finite resource. So we wake up with as much willpower as we're going to have for the day. It is finite. And as we use it up during the day, we run out towards the evening, right? So if you are suffering from these intense hunger cues because you've consumed sugar first thing in the morning, you're going to use up your willpower faster, right? So then you don't have as much willpower at night. You get home at the end of the day. Maybe you have a really high carbohydrate dinner. You're like, I just want pizza. I just want pasta. And then instead of going for a walk after dinner, you watch 17 episodes of your favorite binge watching show.
Or Tower of Power.
Tower of Power.
Your daughter's new favorite. Okay,
yes.
Keep going. And Kenny G. Okay.
My daughter is currently only taking naps to Tower of Power concert DVDs. She needs the horn sections. Kenny G is not part of Tower of Power, but if you can think of Kenny G and his horn playing abilities, yes.
I love it. I love it.
But I will encourage her to enjoy good music. That one's okay. But yeah, think about that. If you're constantly having to overcome these intense hunger cues, which are spurred by eating sugar, it's going to get harder and harder to say no to those treats.
True.
You use up your willpower, and then you make other poor decisions, right? You drink one drink too many when you get home.
Yep.
Maybe you lose your temper.
Yep.
It just becomes harder and harder.
Yep. So then there's something to setting up habits where you're not using your willpower to make decisions to not have sugar or to make better choices. It's just in your habit, and you don't have to use up any reserve.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yes. Especially if you get it out of your house. That's one way.
It doesn't take willpower because it ain't there.
Yeah. And if you quit sugar, it becomes less and less appealing to you, which we'll talk about in a second. So the sixth way that you will feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is that it will help you achieve a healthy weight. If this is something you've been fighting for a while, losing weight does become easier after quitting sugar.
Yes, I can see that correlation with sugar and weight are so closely linked.
Yes. As we know, sugar stimulates insulin secretion. Insulin has some of the most control in our body over our fat cells. Increased insulin action, such as we see in insulin resistance, are associated with increased fat reserves and weight gain. A high carbohydrate diet, including large amounts of refined starchy foods and sugar, are commonly consumed in our standard American diet, results in our overproduction of insulin, deposition of calories in fat cells instead of being able to burn them in lean muscle tissues, and predisposition to weight gain through increased hunger and slowed metabolic rate. Basically, insulin levels, when they're elevated because we're consuming too much sugar, promotes fat storage, which is why insulin resistance makes fat loss and weight loss more challenging. A low sugar diet can lead to lower insulin levels, which in turn encourages our cells to release and burn fat. A 2023 meta-analysis examining more than 8,600 studies found that increased sugar consumption was associated with increased body weight, especially if you were consuming sugar-sweetened beverages, and fat accumulation. A 2010 prospective cohort study, which involved more than 120,000 individuals, found that drinking one less sugar-sweetened beverage per day reduced annual weight gain by approximately 25%.
Wow. And that's so true that drinking sugar, it can just sneak in so many calories. And it's
Right.
like, I didn't even know that happened. Like,
Yeah, because it doesn't fill you up.
Right. At
So
all. It
you
goes
could
through you
consume
fast.
tons and tons of sugar and you don't feel full. Unlike if you're consuming it in meal form. So
Yeah.
yes, sugar sweetened beverages are the worst.
There's like such an exponential growth of sugar in you that's like, I didn't see that coming. Mm-hmm. We saw it coming.
We saw it coming. But only because we've learned about this stuff. So
True. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have saw it coming.
Mm-hmm. The 7th way that you will feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is food will taste better.
True.
Yes.
That changes your taste buds a little bit.
Yes, it does. We talked about this phenomenon, I'm pretty sure, in our sugar cereal episodes. I don't remember if it was in part 1, 2, or 3. But I think I, in one of those episodes, shared my experience from doing the blood sugar solutions diet. And I did that, I mean, it was probably a decade ago that I first tried that protocol. And I remember, so you go hardcore, no sugar, 21 days, right? And the only thing you have that's sweet is berries. And you keep that pretty limited. I remember that there was one day I woke up and I was making breakfast and I was cutting up bell peppers for breakfast. And I ate a raw bell pepper and I was like, oh my God, this pepper is so sweet. Why is this pepper so sweet? And then I realized, oh, my taste buds have changed because I haven't had sugar. I think at that point in probably like 14 days. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
That suddenly foods that have sugar in them, which vegetables do,
Yeah.
I could actually taste the sugar in them because my taste buds weren't so overwhelmed by other added sugars, and food begins to taste sweeter and more flavorful.
Wow.
We have specific receptor proteins in our taste buds on our tongue. They let us taste sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami flavors, and actually they just have discovered a 6th type of sensor that tastes fat. That's
No
interesting.
kidding.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And actually, this is interesting too. I didn't realize this, but research has shown recently that we also have sweet receptors in our gastrointestinal tract, in our pancreas, in our brain, in our hypothalamus, and in other organs, which are heavily involved in nutrient sensing, monitoring changes in our energy stores, and triggering metabolic and behavioral responses to help us maintain a proper energy balance, as well as the immune response. I thought that was very interesting. So it's not just our tongue that has sweet receptors. We also have it in most of our body organs.
Wait, so they feel good just a little bit later? Like my pancreas.
Well,
is
you
like,
don't like detect it in the same way, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, but it tells us that our pancreas, our GI tract, that they sense sugar.
Oh.
And there's a reason they sense sugar because they're all designed to know when there are sugar molecules so they can maintain homeostasis so that we don't overload.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, they're like, we need to be aware of this.
Yeah. In a study that was aiming at quantifying the levels of sweet taste receptors in the upper gut of healthy and diabetic individuals, researchers observed that the levels of sweet taste receptors were diminished in diabetic type 2 subjects with elevated blood glucose concentrations. So, when we have elevated blood glucose, when we're consuming too much sugar, our sweet taste receptors actually decline, which suggests that consuming sugar over time makes us less perceptive of sweet taste because now our sweet receptors are declining, which makes food taste less and less sweet and more bland over time. And so then we have to add more and more sugar in order for foods to taste sweet. Which I'm sure you've seen that in people, right? Like I'm sure we all have that one friend that you can watch pour in half a cup of sugar to their coffee and you're like, oh God, how are you doing that? But they literally don't taste how sweet that is anymore because their taste buds have lost a lot of their sweet receptors. So additionally, a high sugar diet also reduces the brain's chemical responses to sweetness. So not only do we have less receptors for sweet, but then the chemical responses that happen in our brain, like that tell our brain, hey, there's sugar there. It causes our brain to crave more sugar in order to achieve the same pleasurable effect that just a little bit of sugar used to give us. That's the addictive property of sugar, right? It's like cocaine.
Yep.
The more you have, eventually, the
Yep.
more you need in order to achieve that same level of pleasure from it. So then not only does food taste less sweet, but our brain tells us we need more sugar in order to feel happy.
The cool part of this is that the mirror is true, is that when you take it away, you love peppers.
That's literally my next line. Eating a diet low in sugar can reverse those effects and, in fact, make other foods taste sweet.
A pepper. Amazing.
Yes, it makes it so that if we cut out sugar, and really you go hardcore, and I'm not just saying sugar, you need to cut out anything sweet because you need to reset.
Even like bread, what do you think? Rice, banana, or what about rice and banana?
Well, sweet, extra sweet fruits, but
maybe
also
processed.
Even like better sweeteners like honey, like maple syrup, like coconut sugar. Those still trigger stevia, monk fruit. Those still trigger the sweet receptors. So you have to cut all of those out. Even though they don't influence your insulin in the same way, they influence your sweet receptors.
Got it.
Anything that tastes sweet is triggering your sweet receptors. So you need to reduce or cut out those foods altogether in order to reset your sweet receptors.
Yep, that makes sense.
And then once you do that, real food will start to taste sweet to you again. And then once you add those things back in, so if you add in honey, if you add in maple syrup, if you add in monk fruit or stevia or what have you, you will need far less of it.
True.
Than you would have needed before, because things like a bell pepper taste sweet to you. Yes. And suddenly you're like, oh God, this like sugar sweetened beverage that used to taste good now is like sickeningly sweet. Yes. So if you cut out sugar hardcore, at least 21 days, but for some people they need more. But if you cut it out, then you'll realize eventually things that used to taste just borderline sweet to you are like way too sweet now. So it's a win-win because, in the long run, it's okay to have some honey. It's okay to have some maple syrup. Like, don't live like,
right.
You don't have to live like a monk, right?
Right.
Unless you want to. But like, you don't have to live this life of deprivation. But if you reset your receptors and your brain chemical signals, you just simply don't need as much to feel that same happy reward, and you don't need as much for food to taste good, and you'll taste the natural sweetness in food. I actually was thinking about this morning. I've been making this every once in a while, like maybe like once or twice a week. I make this oatmeal substitute. I don't like having oatmeal for breakfast because it spikes my blood sugar, but I've been making.
Okay.
This will sound gross, but I promise it's not. Because I don't have sugar, so it's not gross. Maybe if you have a lot of sugar, it would be gross. But if you're having oatmeal every day and you want to swap it out for something healthier, it is riced cauliflower.
Okay.
Hemp hearts. And shredded coconut.
Yum.
And I heat that up with coconut milk on the stove. And it is like a hot cereal mimic, but it doesn't have any grains in it. It's just cauliflower, hemp hearts, and shredded coconut.
Okay, hemp hearts. I'm going to have to look that. I don't know what that is.
Oh, yeah. It's just like, from hemp, they're the little seeds.
The little seeds.
Yes. And so I have that, mix it with coconut milk, add a little sea salt, add a little cinnamon. Things like cinnamon make and like enhance the sweet flavor of foods. If you've ever experienced that, just like cumin enhances the salty flavor of foods, cinnamon enhances the sweet flavor of foods. So I don't even add any sweetener into the base. Then I add some dried cranberries, a little pinch of Lily's chocolate, and a scoop of almond butter. And so it's this really like tasty, it's got a lot of plant-based protein. I prefer, for most people you need animal-based protein, but plant-based protein is also good a couple days a week just to kind of let your body cleanse from the animal proteins. So I do that like once or twice a week.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
And then the other days, my breakfast, if you're just curious, because since we're on the topic, my breakfasts are vegetables and eggs. So I'll usually do Brussels sprouts, and then I'll alternate between like beets with it, carrots, mushrooms, onions, sweet potatoes, anything like that. So I kind of alternate through those more starchy foods, but I always have Brussels sprouts with something, eggs, and then broccoli sprouts.
That all sounds amazing, except for like 3 of those ingredients. The rest sounded amazing and so good. Yeah. Better than a bowl of Fruit Loops.
Yes, exactly. Contrast that to like a Pop-Tart, right?
Yes, right.
Imagine how much energy I have sustained. Kay and I were actually just talking about this before we had the podcast. My daughter has hit this sleep regression. I never thought we'd be here, but she's waking up like 4 times a night right now. She has been an excellent sleeper since the day she was born. She was sleeping through the night at like 8 weeks. So this is really hitting us hard. She's waking up 4 times a night. This is hard.
And Lainey's tired.
But I'm like, actually, like I was telling her, she's like, can you nap during the day? I'm like, I'm actually not tired during the day because I start my day with vegetables and good protein and fiber and fat, and then I feel good. I mean, it sustains my energy. Whereas if it would be easy when I'm tired to be like, I need coffee. I just
need a bowl of Fruit Loops.
Yeah. I just want to have cereal. I just want to have toast. I just want to have coffee. And then I would send my blood sugar on this spiking roller coaster, and then I would crash. And then
nap at 2.
I would be tired, but I'm not, because I'm eating foods that sustain my energy.
Yes, I love it.
So if you need an oatmeal substitute, try that.
Yes. Have you ever heard of the Kachava shake? It's like it's like a whole food for our listeners. I love it. I've had it for years. And I told my friend about it, and I use it sometimes as a breakfast, but not normally. I try to have a heartier breakfast, so I'll do it as a snack or on the run or anyway. I sent my friend to it. I was like, you're going to love this Kachava shake. It's chocolate. It tastes just like a Wendy's Frosty. Like, this is so delicious. And she ate it. She was like, this does not taste like a Wendy's Frosty at all.
Okay.
Like, at all. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's like the sweetest. It's like my dessert. Like, it is the sweetest thing I eat. She's like, this is not good. Because it is literally the sweetest thing I eat, and it doesn't even have any sugar in it.
Yeah.
Just wild.
Yeah, and for somebody who's used to having sugar, it's not going to taste sweet to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So just saying.
So just lower your standards, friends.
Yeah, we'll cut out sugar, and then suddenly Brussels sprouts taste sweet. Like, I'm eating riced cauliflower for breakfast, and I'm not adding, well, obviously, like, the cranberries and the chocolate add some sweetness.
Yeah.
But, like, imagine, I'm not adding anything to it. I'm not adding honey. I'm not adding maple syrup. It tastes so sweet as it is. And the cinnamon helps, too.
Sounds amazing.
The 8th way that you will feel better in 2024, if you quit sugar, is improved gut health and immunity.
Oh, yes. It's all about the gut,
Gut health. If you are experiencing digestive discomfort regularly, if you are not pooping, if you get frequent colds, you might not realize that the thing that's contributing to that is excess sugar consumption. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Research suggests that dietary sugar consumption affects immune cells in our gut. It can alter our gut microbiota. It can cause overgrowth of harmful bacteria, which then replace our beneficial bacteria.
It feeds the bad.
And high blood sugar and excess sugar consumption increase gut permeability, which leads to the development of food sensitivities, autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammatory conditions, et cetera, et cetera. As we know from our Gut Health 101 episode, a foundational episode, if you haven't listened to that, go find that one. Our gut is our first line of defense against pathogens. It protects us against viruses. It protects us against bacteria. So sugar consumption compromises that immune barrier within our gut, and it increases our susceptibility to infections. I'm sure you've experienced this if you are somebody who eats healthy on a regular basis and then you kind of fall off the wagon for a weekend, like you go and eat a bunch of processed sugar. A lot of times you wake up and suddenly your glands are swollen. You have the sore throat. All of a sudden you've got that cold that your partner had that you thought you weren't going to get.
You're so right. You're so right. Man, I feel like the last year I haven't gotten sick at all. And then I fell a little off the wagon and I did get sick. And if I have sugar, literally within 20 to 30 minutes of eating it, my glands literally swell. Like in my neck here, I can feel it just like that.
Yeah, your immune system is like, what's happening?
Yes.
Interestingly, sugar also depletes our body's zinc levels, and zinc is crucial for immune function. And that's because zinc acts in a way that's similar to insulin. It activates the molecules that we need for cell signaling to maintain glucose homeostasis. So we need zinc just like we need insulin to balance our blood sugar. And if we're constantly bombarding our body with sugar, then we are sending our blood glucose on this roller coaster ride. Our body needs to use the zinc that it has in order to maintain glucose homeostasis, which means all that zinc is going towards balancing our blood sugar, and we don't have enough for our immune systems, and then we get sick. more often. Sugar intake also interferes with the functionality of vitamin C. Studies have found that excessive amounts of sugar or glucose in the body inhibit our absorption of vitamin C. Vitamin C and sugar have similar uptake pathways in our body. They both use the GLUT receptors, GLUT receptors. You can think about it, like
your butt?
Like you're a glutton. That's how I was.
Glutton.
Or you can think about it like it's your butt. That's fine. I guess I did say glute.
Your glutes. Oh, your gluttony.
Gluttony, yeah.
Gluttony, that's a better connection.
Both vitamin C and glucose enter cells using a critical protein known as the GLUT or GLUT1 receptor. The GLUT1 receptor has a preference for glucose, which means it will choose sugar over vitamin C when it's given the opportunity. So
won't we all?
So your body needs vitamin C for your immune system, but if you are consuming sugar, then your body will take up sugar instead of the vitamin C, which means you just pee out the vitamin C.
What a waste.
So if you're consuming sugar, your body is going to be deficient in vitamin C, and vitamin C is critical to the function of our white blood cells. I also think that this is the interesting part of those like vitamin C lozenges that are just loaded with sugar.
Oh, funny.
Right?
You're
like,
right.
Why? Okay, so you're consuming the vitamin C, you're just peeing it out because all you're absorbing is the sugar.
Well, they added in some food dye to help you out, too.
Yeah. So consume vitamin C in its natural forms from things like peppers. Actually, I think Brussels sprouts are one of the highest sources of vitamin C. Peppers, greens are high in vitamin C. Citrus fruits are high in vitamin C. So get it from Whole Foods. I like to use an acerola cherry powder as like a food source of vitamin C that I can supplement in. Anyway, all of that to say, sugar takes away from your body's ability to absorb vitamin C, which leads to more infections. The ninth way in which you will feel better in 2024, if you eliminate sugar, is your skin will look better.
True.
Just like Kay talked about.
Said it.
Quitting sugar might be the most straightforward and cost-effective way to improve your skin.
Yes.
Right? So sugar ages our skin because it essentially renders collagen in our skin incapable of being repaired.
Really?
Collagen fibers in our skin are what allow our skin to look youthful and bouncy. And and sugar inhibits the repair of collagen fibers.
Dang it.
A 2012 study in animals at the University of California, Los Angeles indicated a positive relationship between the consumption of sugar and the aging of cells, including skin cells, making us look more wrinkled and old before our time.
I'm quitting sugar
Womp,
immediately.
womp.
Not one more bite for the rest of my life.
For anybody who's like, I don't care about all the health effects, if you're vain and you care about what you look like,
Your face. Do it for your face.
do it for your skin. Yes, glucose and fructose link the amino acids present in collagen and elastin that support our skin, producing advanced glycation end products known as AGEs, appropriately named because they age you. AGEs are generally toxic to the body. They can accumulate in tissues. Over time, skin problems from the accumulation of AGEs in our dermal layer can lead to things like browning skin, yellowing skin, poor elasticity, and deeper wrinkles.
Wow.
AGEs can also cause internal changes in the skin. They hinder wound healing. They disrupt our skin cell function. They induce programmed cell death, known as apoptosis, and they trigger inflammation. Wow. Not a good combination.
Wow.
So quitting sugar not only promotes healthier and more youthful skin, but it also reduces toxins in our body, which then also reduces the fast aging of our cells.
Wow. It just got personal for me. Now, sugar, I have something against you. You wrinkled my face.
That leads us to our final benefit. The 10th way that you will feel better in 2024 if you quit sugar is reduced risk of chronic diseases.
Oh, well, that's a big one. Okay.
Right. And maybe you won't notice it in 2024, but I bet you'll notice it in 2042.
Uh-huh.
Right? After you quit sugar For a period of time, you will notice improvements in a lot of blood markers, including your blood lipids, such as LDL and HDL cholesterol, as well as your triglycerides. We talked about how sugar influences your blood lipids in our episode. I can't remember if it was probably our first sugar cereal. So sugar cereal episode 1, where we talked about like the deathly powers of sugar. But essentially, eating cholesterol does not raise our cholesterol. It's eating sugar that raises our blood cholesterol, because our liver produces cholesterol. Our cells need cholesterol. They need it for repair. Cholesterol is not the enemy, right? It's only an enemy when it's building up in our blood cells instead of going into our cells. And do you know why it builds up in our blood instead of going into our cells? Because sugar damages cholesterol molecules and makes it so that our cells cannot absorb them. So when you have a lot of sugar, it's like having a bunch of sharp objects floating around in your bloodstream, because you have all those blood sugar crystals floating around in there. And then they damage the structure of cholesterol molecules. And then the cell can't recognize that cholesterol molecule, can't take it up anymore. And so it just continues to float around in our bloodstream.
Sugar is the a-hole of the universe.
It's an a-hole.
They're the crystals in our subparticles.
Yeah.
They're the rude thing at the grocery store. They're hurting my skin.
They're the guy that cuts you off in traffic for no reason.
Jerks.
Yeah. So if you reduce sugar, you will improve blood lipid parameters. Clinical evidence suggests that a high fructose diet can lead to many problems with our lipid panels, and it can cause related metabolic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, stroke, etc. Additionally, liver metabolism of fructose and sugar, glucose, sucrose, leads to an increase in uric acid, which is a precursor of gout. Fructose is one of the leading contributors to gout. A large-scale prospective cohort study confirmed that frequent consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, just avoid those, and high fructose corn syrup are associated with an elevated risk of high levels of uric acid and gout. And we just discussed how sugar consumption leads to the production of those advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. AGEs contribute to a vast majority of age-related diseases, including neurodegenerative disorders, so things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. It also contributes to atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque inside our arteries, and chronic inflammatory conditions. The accumulation of AGEs is accelerated in conditions like insulin resistance and diabetes, leading to a range of comorbidities, which is why if you have type 2 diabetes, you're more susceptible to things like heart disease and Alzheimer's. A 2023 meta-analysis of more than 8,600 studies found significant harmful associations between dietary sugar consumption and 18 endocrine and metabolic diseases, 10 cardiovascular outcomes, 7 cancer outcomes, and 10 other outcomes, including neuropsychiatric, dental, hepatic, so liver, osteal, having to do with our bones, and allergic. Evidence indicated that each serving per week increment of sugar-sweetened beverage consumption was associated with a 4% higher risk of gout, and each 250 milliliter per day increment of sugar-sweetened beverage consumption was associated with a 17% higher risk of coronary heart disease and a 4% increased risk of all-cause mortality. In addition, study results suggested that for every 25 gram per day increment increase in fructose consumption is associated with a 22% higher risk of pancreatic cancer.
Eek. Okay. I think we should cut sugar.
Yes. So in summary, if you want to feel better in 2024, you can cut sugar and you will have more energy, reverse your insulin resistance, reduce inflammation and pain, reduce brain fog, improve your mental clarity, and improve your memory. You will improve your mood and your emotional state. You will overcome anxiety and depression. You will lose weight. You can make food taste better. You will improve your immune system. You will make your skin look younger and healthier, and you will reduce your risk of chronic disease and live longer.
Yes. Preach, sister.
Just by one simple thing, right? And honestly, in today's world, like, there are so many substitutes.
Yep.
there's just no reason to continue consuming those processed crappy foods, to continue drinking those sugar sweetened beverages. Just love yourself enough to
say no.
Love yourself enough to say no.
Yes. I love that, Lainey. And you've made all those things come true for my life, and you can do it for our listeners. And listeners, you just got to go, just do it, man, and you'll feel so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And 2024 will be your best year yet.
Yes. And if you want more tips on quitting sugar, be sure to check out our Sugar Cereal Part 3, Quitting Sugar for Good, and our other episode, Your Brain on Sugar, How Sugar Causes Addiction and How You Can Overcome It. In both of those episodes, we talk all about tips and tricks for beating sugar addiction, for getting sugar out of your diet. We give you substitutions, all that sort of thing. So
we need to make anti-sugar t-shirts. Known as the Down with Sugar.
Down with Sugar. We do need to do that. Yes. I got to think of a way to do that.
I know, right? Right. Without the sugar industry hating us. Okay, it's fine.
Well, that's fine. They already hate us.
Yeah, that's true.
And if I'm going to make an enemy somewhere, I want it to be them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Eleni, for those tips. I'm here for all of it. I'm living proof that you need to listen to Eleni.
Yes, absolutely. Kay, without knowing what this episode was about, basically listed 7 out of the 10 of those benefits.
So it is. And I once told Eleni no, but now I tell Eleni, okay. I'll try. That's what we want you to do. So, well, thank you, listeners. Have a great new year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!